Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. Today I'm going to do a version of Logged In, a focus on AI in education. So the first resource I want to share is a video that came out last week that I found. Professor goes viral for clever way to catch students cheating with AI. So let's take a look.
Mississippi college professor has gone viral after he came up with a clever way to catch his students using AI to cheat on a midterm. Alcorn State University instructor Jason Gibson, he hid the word Madagascar in white text within the test. Well, students reading the assignment, they normally could not see it. However, an AI chatbot could detect it when the prompt was copied and pasted. Well, Gibson says 32 of his 35 students included bizarre phrases containing that hidden word in their answers and failed that portion of the exam. Gibson says what he did was not embarrassing to his students, but only to make the point about academic integrity. Come on, guys. All you had to do was just read what the chat wrote.
So what I take from this is I think this is a professor getting more savvy with students' use of AI, but also the main point here is the prevalence of the use of AI on exams and other types of work, and how not every professor is doing this. So you can tell that students before have taken advantage of AI in order to complete assignments. But I think this is just a unique and great example of a professor finding a way to catch students in the act per se of their use of AI to create a more equitable and balanced classroom. I do think there are professors out there who are needing to find ways to do this or work within certain frameworks to design assignments which are more able to support students not using AI to understand what students understand. But at the same time, I think this is a reality of what we're seeing in a lot of colleges and universities. So let's take a look at another clip here.
When Stacey Morris's son got in the car after the first day of school, he said something she didn't expect.
Mom, did you know that we live in Vanecki? And I said, what are you talking about?
That question sent Morris flipping through her middle schooler at Farnsley's brand new agenda, unveiling all sorts of bizarre errors.
The periodic table is just jarbled words. We have new planets called Mark.
In this U.S. map, Louisiana is Lukong, Alabama is Alatome, Illinois is Vitoise, and South Carolina is South Quanto.
Arizona is Arizona. And there's not even the correct letters in Tennessee. Illinois starts with a V. I'm crazy.
And look at these phases of the moon. Some are not legible. What should be waning crescent says waning crescane. And the periodic table, where the names under the elements are gibberish.
We have to pay a $10 instructional fee every year in order to get this agenda. So you're making us pay for something that you used AI for. That's kind of silly in my opinion.
So that's an interesting one.
Thank you, guys.
When Stacey Morris's son got in the car after the first day of school, he said something.
So that's an interesting one. So here, a school district or just making these agenda planners obviously used AI to kind of track the process in terms of making the planner. And it's interesting that it wasn't double checked before printing. Mistakes are obviously AI generated mistakes, but I think this goes to, us really need to be careful to double check that they are, especially in terms of spelling, visual graphics. And I think this is just a good example of how important it is to be those changes. At the end of the day, it is that district's responsibility to those changes. And at the same time, I think it's important that, especially as an education community, see that mistakes are obvious. And additionally, I think the one thing that the parent was also the cost. The cost of something that is presumed to be or generated in an authentic way, people are obviously going to have an issue with that. So let's take a look at another one. This is a video about the Alpha School using AI instead of teachers to personalize learning. So let's take a look.
AI instead of teachers is growing from a dozen to roughly 50 campuses this school year. Alpha School is a private school that teaches students core subjects like math and reading with artificial intelligence apps. And after 2 hours of AI learning on a screen, Students then spend the rest of the day learning real-world skills, which can range from coding a robot to surfing. The goal is to create a personalized learning program for each individual student. We're joined now by Mackenzie Price, Alpha's co-founder. Great to be with you, Mackenzie. Thank you so much for being with us. Why do you believe this type of education, where AI is really leading the core curriculum, is better than, say, a traditional education model?
I will tell you, Elizabeth, there has never been a more exciting time to be a 5-year-old or a teacher, because using artificial intelligence to be able to provide every student with a personalized learning experience, like having a one-to-one tutor, and then allowing the adults in the classroom to focus on motivating and connecting with their students, has been magical. We finally have this opportunity to increase the amount of human connection and give students their most valuable resource, which is time to develop life skills, to work on projects, to interact with each other and the incredible adults in the classroom.
So let's talk about this for a minute. So with the topic here, school uses AI instead of teachers. This is about the Alpha School. This is the co-founder of the Alpha School making a pitch, essentially. So I think this is important to understand, that this is as much marketing as more than journalism about AI. And I think it's important that when you see things in the news about AI shifting education, to understand whether that article or that video is about a specific product or a school, opposed to really understanding value it brings to learning. I think an important thing to note with this video is that the 2-hour daily driven academics, rest of the day is essentially designed for life skills. An important point to kind of understand the structure of the student's day. Let's keep looking at this for just another minute.
And we're seeing incredible results at Alpha across the country. And I think this is something that families are so excited about.
This type of independent learning, though, Mackenzie, it sounds like a great model for kids at the very top of the academic spectrum. High achieving, highly motivated. But what about the kids who need extra help or who may have learning disabilities? Is the Alpha AI model able to accommodate that?
That is the beauty of being able to provide truly personalized learning that meets a student at exactly the level and pace that is right for them. So if a student has a learning difference, or they come in with gaps in their academic knowledge, the system is able to take the same curriculum that students in a traditional classroom are learning, but feed it to them at the level and pace that is right for that student.
So we noticed she's talking a lot about systems being fed to students. Just think that's an interesting choice of words, in terms of this type of education provided to adapt to different students' needs. I also think it's very difficult to have in place that do truly adapt to a wide range of students' needs. I think it can be hard to have these systems adapt to a wide range of students' needs appropriately to support all students in an environment like this. And I do think that these early models are much more designed towards higher achieving students, adapting for broader ranges of needs, because the research, just some of it's not quite there yet for how it could be done across different levels. I mean, I do think research is going to, our research being done in these environments, different approaches, but at the end of the day, very early in this process.
So what we're seeing at Alpha is that students who come in advanced are able to really blow the ceiling off of what's possible. And students who come in and need more support are able to get that support. That's what we've been able to do, is truly personalize the academic experience. And it's why we're seeing our students learning twice as much in a fraction of the time that students in a traditional classroom are spending, which of course gives them the rest of the day to focus on developing life skills, things like relationship building, leadership, teamwork, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. In fact, today I spent my afternoon rock climbing with some of our students.
So I also think this also highlights gap created in haves and have-nots education. Some is tailored more high achieving students. Models not necessarily practical for a public school system in some areas right now. I think we're a long way from this model being can be adaptable to really broad range of students in public systems. If you notice, she does a very good job of, separating it out. Like achieving students do this, well, students we're trying to get to close gaps are doing this. Um, that ability to be able to spend the rest of the day on topics or other, that's a luxury. That's if you are performing at the level, a much higher level, or you feel like you can shift into that focus.
So how do you separate the classes? Is it done by age or is it done by where they are in the academic spectrum for Alpha?
It is still so important that children get connection with other students in their age group. But what's beautiful about this model is that you can have two students sitting right next to each other, the same age, but one 7-year-old might be working on algebra while the 7-year-old next to her is working on addition and subtraction. There's no such thing as having to pull students out to get special help because every student is really getting that one-to-one mastery-based tutoring experience. And the whole time they're supported by incredibly caring adults who are working with them on motivation, on connection, on helping them build the skill of learning how to learn, which is so important in this ever-changing world we're in.
What do you say to experts who say, though, that it's crucial for these kids to have that one-on-one relationship?
I would be interested in how develop the learning plans for these students based on the environment they're coming from. And I would also be interested in the diversity of the classroom in terms of learning needs. Able to have these types of learning outcomes happen consistently. But I wanted to share, for school using AI, their approaches, their strategies, and just kind of some of the early kind of to having more AI in the classroom to help personalize learning, an extreme level, but there's pros and cons, obviously, and also are some gaps being created in terms of the haves and have-nots of AI literacy. Classroom by students being able to have a specific experience like that, like that's always going to happen. I do think it's really important to kind of how some of those initial environments can be created and modified. Big benefits from the learning experiences like the students have, but also understanding what's gained and what's lost in the end. So this next article is from a publication called theconversation.com. And it attracted me because the title Oral Exams Are Making a Comeback to Stop AI Cheating, but they have their own problems. So oral exams they go back to ancient Greece, talking about the value of oral exams. Teachers would ask students two questions which need to be responded to on the spot to show their knowledge of the subject. Over time they become relevant through different variable approaches or other options available. Also, equity, despite benefits, oral exams can create barriers for some students, disadvantages to students at certain times, consistency. All these topics are kind of brought up to why they've been used and not used. But teachers have decided to go back to utilizing oral exams as using them as a measure, an assessment for students in their learning. Particularly in an age of AI, in which they are using these to kind of understand what the student is thinking, how they can express themselves, and what they really know about a topic that isn't expressed through a computer or through another technology means. The measure against cheating, oral assessments are not perfect. Student could use AI to rehearse and remember convincing answers, which might not be such a bad thing if they're thinking about the topic. Student who wrote every word may freeze under pressure, anxiety around oral exams. If we're just using our exams as an AI lie detector, it can turn into an assessment, into a test of confidence rather than learning or effort. This article talks about the research for effective forms of school assessments must produce trusted, reliable results, treat all students fairly, allow appropriate flexibility, they're all personalized learning, and measure the intended learning, which is incredibly important, right? Is the student taking from the lesson what was anticipated? In the age of AI, research suggests that oral exams are most useful when used alongside written or practical assessments rather than just a full replacement. Just to talk about this briefly, to the heart of this, exams are not a clean fix to assessing students' knowledge, and even in the age of AI. There is inconsistent question counts. Examiners, there's a risk of testing confidence instead of learning, and heavily time cost for those who are using it to assess student understanding, whether it's on school level, the collegiate level. There's an investment in time. Um, you need to think about is what's the K-12 version of this in terms of redesigning assessment. Food for thought. The article literally leads to thinking about the value of these types of assessments in the age of AI to counter written work. So, an article to think about and consider when thinking about how students are assessed, what types of assessments are making a comeback this time. Um, there's always that important understanding the bias that's within these types of assessments and what other types of measures are going to come along when you ask to do these types of assessments with students, particularly at different age levels as well. Next article here is from Digital Education, preparing K-12 and higher education IT leaders for the exponential era. AI pushes educators to focus on the art of teaching and lesson design. Most school districts in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania have adopted general AI policies and recognizing the technology is here to stay are allowing teachers to find their own efficiencies and creative uses for it. So let's take a quick look here. In the age when artificial intelligence can effortlessly manufacture essays and PowerPoint presentations, educators across Lancaster County must increasingly focus on how their students learn and complete assignments. Most of the county's 17 school districts in the last 2 years have adopted general AI policies as recommended by the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, requiring schools to provide some level of professional AI development for teachers and set guidelines for engaging with AI in educational setting. The amount of AI resources teachers incorporate into their daily instruction is largely self-determined, and how they use the technology varies widely from classroom to classroom. Many educators have a realistic concern about a world in which there is no longer a human in the loop. Without good governance and culture, it would be Wild West that once cell phones, where without intentional usage, it would just be a wasteland. With good governance, teachers can say AI can level the playing field with students with differing needs. Teachers can also complete remedial work more efficiently using AI. Aside from discussions of the merits and potential pitfalls of AI, school administrators in Lancaster County are taking the approach that AI is here to stay. So I think the main takeaway at this point is very grounded, thinking about the value of AI in the classroom. District is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, is taking a very thoughtful, meaningful approach to having policy match what educators are doing in the classroom for students. Districts are shifting their focus from the final product grading to process-based assessment because AI outputs no longer always indicate that the learning has happened. And I think that's an important point. I think the wake-up call line from this article is also really important, that you really need to understand that across the board, and I think most do, this is so much shift in terms of teaching and learning related to AI. Everyone across the board, from administrators and students, are now in a new world in terms of teaching and learning. We have to really rethink how we're doing some of those processes, particularly as it relates to assessment. This goes back to that oral exam piece, oral exam, students understanding truly in a time of AI. The next video here is from News Nation. The next video here is from News Nation, how students from each state created AI framework from schools for the Hill. And let's take a quick look.
When it comes to tasks for work and school, AI is finding a new way to put its name on digital paper. Anthropic is adding a watermark to text that generate, inserting a visible code that helps others know that AI has done at least some of the work. It's the latest way the industry is working to police AI slop. And if you're a parent, then you know AI is changing the classroom experience. Now, high school students representing all 50 states have produced a national framework for using software or AI in schools. The goal is keep original learning and critical thought in school without banning the future, artificial intelligence. Joining us now is Jeffrey Riley, Day of AI Executive Director, and the man behind this event, dare I say, potential movement. Jeffrey, if anyone should have a say in this, it probably should be the students who it affects the most. How do you think the teens did in building out a framework for utilizing AI?
A really impressive display from the kids over this weekend to come together. Two students from each state acting as senators at the EMK Institute, which is an exact replica of the US Senate, and drafting a national AI policy. Adults have failed to come to consensus on this, and the kids were able to.
Just speaking of.
So this is an interesting point, basically bringing students together to craft an AI policy in education. The power of this is really that you have the understanding of how this is impacting their own educational experiences. And they brought it together to help draft these policies.
The power of young minds. We know in this framework, it has some clear instructions for schools, including teaching AI literacy before actually using it, banning AI-generated assignments, and prohibiting AI-driven grading. What piece stands out to you the most as being the most important idea they came up with?
You think the number one thing the kids came away with was this idea that as soon as devices are introduced in the classroom, kids need to be exposed to AI literacy instruction. You don't throw the car keys to a 16-year-old when they turn 16 and they're ready to drive. You put them in driver's education. And in my case, I white knuckled in the front seat with my kids as they learn to drive. AI is more powerful than any car. So kids need to have that AI literacy instruction before they start using the tools.
You know, more broadly, when we look at the classroom and competition in the classroom, we know over the last couple of years, the U.S. has been falling behind, other countries. I am curious. AI is certainly a powerful tool. There's no doubt about that. But does it have the potential to really accelerate our ranking around the world, or does it push it potentially down further?
Well, I would say this is one of my big concerns right now is the
Yeah.
PISA International Assessment of 15-year-olds, which typically tests English, math, science, is for the first time in 2029 going to offer a discrete AI literacy test. And I believe if we as a country don't get moving, we're going to score number 30th in the world on AI literacy with a technology that was created right here in the US of A.
Yeah, one of those things as a parent myself that is certainly concerning, but I think what you and your students prove is that it is the future. We've got to figure it out, and it's impressive that students can be a part of that solution. Jeffrey Riley, really appreciate your time, the work that you and the kids are doing there for the future of the classroom.
So that's a great example of empowering students to look at AI around how it impacts their own future, with helping develop their own framework. Students from all 50 states, looking at AI, understanding it, what's valuable to their own education so they can think thoughtfully and critically around it. And that AI literacy instruction across the world, really trying to empower the United States to step up and take a lead in this area is super important. And students understanding, how it's going to play a role in their future. And it is students getting it better than any adults in many cases still. And it needing to and it does happen with some technology as, from the natives to it. So, do think about how this impacts their understanding of how to use AI. And this is just a great example of students being put in as leaders to help develop policies. So the article I wanted to share, UK university students build RoomQuest and MeetSpot at Google Gemini AI hackathon. The London event selected 52 participants from more than 900 applicants for a one-day application development and pitching challenge. Google UK Student AI Hackathon brought selected university students to London for a one-day prototype challenge. Computer science and engineering students from UK universities together, and for the July 24th for a one-day AI hackathon focused on building working applications with Google AI Studio and presenting them to a panel of Google judges. I just think this is, really to empower learners, students, these prototypes using modern technology like Google AI Studio, and thinking prototyping their ideas for an application. Um, Out of 1,000 applicants, our 5 was selected to build an AI solution using um, Gemini API and present our working prototype directly to a panel of Google experts. That experience is amazing for students to have. And I think it's important for them to continue to, as some learning from adults needs to adapt and change. This is the world that many students are stepping into. So it's really important to embrace this. It's really important to support student learning with application development and use of AI and understanding how it's impact everyone's future. RimQuest turns physical spaces into AI generated games. So they're working with these new technology. RimQuest, they developed as part of this team, an AI powered game that turns any physical room into a personalized escape room adventure. Just really kind of cool ideas coming out here. Meet spot, ways, travel, access, and weather. This team, the 4-hour period to develop Meet Spot, an application intended to help groups choose where to meet rather than simply provide directions. Gemini is the reasoning engine working over places, routes, weather, and timeline data. So they're learning how to apply these new technologies in really meaningful ways in this application development experience for them, and work as a team. And for a team build prototype with React, TypeScript, Node.js, Express, Vercel, and Gemini API. So just those experiences then also sets these students up for having an experience in the real workforce where they can explain that they use these skills to develop prototypes to take things to the next level. So I just wanted to share this as a really cool hackathon experience for these students, and something that they can their resumes, they can continue these projects and continue to provide more meaningful new applications for the world. So along with my research this week, I came across this East Penn School District AI Technology Update 2026-2027. So, districts, these are updates around their technology policies and procedures. This particular district did lead with AI in the title and in the graphic. So let's take a look at what they've put. AI Technology Update, it's directly to families, elementary, middle, and high school level updates. Very important to do that because those levels are extremely different, particularly how their levels of technology are used and how they're being and how technology is being used at each one of these levels. So let's see, they heavy, language here. So, they are focused, restriction of access, smell policy around cell phones and smartwatches, unauthorized devices in the school. And they have specific elementary school handbooks. Let's see when we get into middle school. Of course, YouTube access is restricted only for instructional purposes. Restriction of electronic devices, particularly AR, VR, wearable technologies. Often those have tools which can, ensure acceptable use policies a little bit heightened, at the school level, because students would get on different networks and try to avoid, different to that. And often they're given a device at this level, personal device responsibility, personal data, and data costs. So there are no, particular AI yet at the elementary and middle school level, but I do notice here we're beginning to see academic integrity in AI. So personal electronic devices, AI tools may not be used to obtain, generate, receive, or communicate answers on assessments or other academic work unless expressly authorized by the teacher. So they're empowering the teacher here to make decision in the classroom. Also, the new wearable technology is huge. Privacy and recording. Photograph, record, live stream, and distribute audio, video, or images of students, staff, classrooms, and instructional activities at school-based events without prior authorization. Instructional time. Personal electronic devices are not permitted during instructional time. And the definition of personal electronic device has been expanded to include smartphones, watches, wireless earbuds, wearable, and AI-enabled technology tablets. So that's the big shift, I think, in the past year, especially with the glasses, with the audio recording. not only is that an infringement on privacy, it's also an issue with academic. And they've included this within the Emmaus High School Handbook. And they have a note here around your voice matters as technology and AI continue to evolve. Partnership between families and schools is incredibly important. I think that's totally true. Our goal is to prepare students not only to understand how to use AI, but also when to use it and how to think critically, ethically. And so that's a nice message. So I just wanted to highlight this East School District updating their policies, placing a little bit more firmer focus on AI, particularly at the high school level, but also establishing, the responsibilities at each level of K-12 education in terms of how the technology is being implemented and what are policies related that students need to be aware of. And it's important that districts do this yearly to make sure that they are beginning to maintain and update their technology because it's changing so quickly. It's really important to update these policies to ensure that they're up to date for the digital safety of all the students. So finally, I just want to share with you my contact information. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give a like, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you checking out the content. Also, go ahead and follow my Substack and find me on LinkedIn. I've included the links here. Thanks again for checking out the video. Please give a like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Provide a comment on any one of the links I shared.